In September of 1961, Hurricane Carla was approaching the coastline of Texas. Meteorologists at the Weather Bureau were watching it on a new network of weather radars.
The center of Carla moved inland near the Port O'Connor, Port Lavaca area on September 11th. As the eye moved over land, direct live TV and radio broadcasts were made from the radar room at Galveston to warn the people in certain areas that the eye was passing over them and to remain indoors.
It made landfall as a Category 4 hurricane with winds of 145 miles per hour and spawned 26 tornadoes as it moved onshore.
The loss of life directly attributed to Carla was amazingly low. Reports indicate 46 deaths occurred, approximately half of which were attributed to the tornadoes associated with Carla. Damage estimates total over $300 million.
There was a 10-foot storm surge and 17 inches of rain fell along the Texas coast. Carla was one of the most intense hurricanes to ever hit the United States.
Although this storm was severe, loss of life was held to a minimum by timely warnings issued by the Weather Bureau and evacuation advice issued by local public safety officials.
So how did people have time to evacuate? How did emergency officials know a major hurricane was coming days in advance?
Carla was to cause the greatest mass exodus of persons from danger areas that has ever occurred. It is estimated that 500,000 persons sought safety in inland areas.
Hurricane Carla was the first hurricane to be monitored from start to finish by researchers in the air. In the week leading up to landfall, the Weather Bureau deployed several types of aircraft into the storm, measuring wind speed and monitoring movement. Over the decades, research and technology have come a long way, but the hurricane hunters at the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, or NOAA, still fly aircraft into active hurricanes to monitor the storms and collect data that saves countless lives each year. Today, we're going off the radar and into the cockpit with the NOAA Hurricane Hunters. We'll be talking to flight engineer Daniel Tyson about what it's like to fly into the eye of a Category 5 hurricane and why he never gets scared of these missions. Then we'll hear from Jonathan Shannon about the history of the Hurricane Hunters, how the program got started, the current aircraft, and the news of new planes that will be piloted by the next generation of Hurricane Hunters. So strap in because we are taking flight into the past, present, and future of these laboratories in the sky. I'm meteorologist Emily Gracie, and you are listening to Off the Radar, a production of the National Weather Desk. On the show, we dig deep into topics about weather, climate, the ocean, space, and much more. Our goal is to help you better understand the weather and to love it as much as we do. Hi everyone, Emily Gracie here. Today I'm bringing a fan favorite episode out of the vault. Since hurricane season is starting to ramp up and we're seeing more and more Hurricane Hunter missions happening, it's a good time to refresh your knowledge on how beneficial these missions are to hurricane forecasting. If you don't already, I highly recommend you follow both the NOAA Hurricane Hunters and the Air Force Reserve Hurricane Hunters on Instagram. The videos they post flying into these storms are unbelievable. In fact, one of those videos went viral last year. It was a mission through the eye wall of Hurricane Helene. In the video, you can see the crazy turbulence, but what made it so interesting was the reaction of the flight engineer in the cockpit. Once they make it through the eye wall, he turns around to the camera with a giant relieved smile on his face. Well, that guy is NOAA flight engineer Daniel Tyson, and I caught up with him last year after he returned from that mission. Take a listen. All right, Dan, let's talk about Helene. This has been literally a wild ride here over the past week or so. Can we talk about the timeline here of when you guys, the NOAA Hurricane Hunters, started flying into Helene and how many missions you actually were on?
Yeah, I believe we started flying either Tuesday or Wednesday of that week, and I think we were in there maybe 4 to 5 times. It's a lot going on. We're doing 24-hour ops, so the timelines are a bit messy because some days you just wake up and you have no idea what day it is.
Okay, so tell me about your role as a hurricane hunter, because there's a lot of different roles there on the plane.
Yeah, so I am a P3 flight engineer. Essentially, if you think about it as terms of science and safety of flight, I am fully maxed out on the safety of flight aspect of it. My roles and responsibility include normal operations of the aircraft along with emergency procedures. And if anything does happen, everyone kind of looks at me to try to figure out what are we going to do next, right? So what are the different systems that we could either shut down or restart, or what bypasses can we have for that malfunction? So I care solely on safety of flight for the aircraft and the crew.
So take me through that final flight that you were on, the one that kind of sparked some rumors too, and then the video was taken in. Can you tell me about that day and what you guys were doing that particular day?
Yeah, so we woke up like any other day, essentially. We got ready for the mission. We went to get some Texas barbecue because we're in Texas and we're from Florida, so we're always going to go get some barbecue as a crew.
Brisket, I assume.
Oh, yeah. We had some brisket. It was great. So we ended up just getting ready for the day for that. We started pre-flight around 12 o'clock. Plane was ready to go by 2, got off deck, took off. Everything's normal. Everything's fine. This flight was a little bit different, being that we had so many people on it. We normally don't carry 20 plus people on our plane. So that was a little abnormal. The good thing is we did have 2 navigators that were flying with us. So the reason why the video was recorded, I had one of the navigators in the jump seat, if you will. It was a circuit breaker panel seat that we have there. That's kind of like that's usually where the second FE will sit. Second flight engineer will sit there to kind of back up the first flight engineer while we're going through the storm. But William Weisinger was in the back, as my other flight engineer. So he gave up his seat. So Andrew Utama, Lieutenant Commander Andrew Utama, could actually fly or sit up there. So that was pretty cool. So me looking back, I was checking on him to see like, hey, you good? Because they're normally not up there. So it was a fun experience. I didn't realize he was going to be recording the whole time, though.
Okay, so why so many people on the flight? Was there media on the flight?
I believe we did have media on this flight, just a local station, and then just a lot of scientists. We were dropping some UASs, some drones, so we had a lot of personnel for that because that's a big deal, dropping drones into the middle of a storm. So there was about 5 people for that.
How long have you been doing this?
So I've been flying with NOAA for 2 years now. This is my 3rd season with them, but I've been a flight engineer for about 11 years. So I joined the Navy back in 2011, had a great experience, did my time and decided to get out. And I got a phone call from a couple of pilots here at NOAA saying, come fly. So
what's the experience been like so far?
It's been absolutely amazing. This working environment is awesome to be a part of. You know, you actually feel like you're part of a team. You care about your coworkers, which is strange. You know, coming from the Navy, it's like, all right. Some people call it trauma bonding, but it's great. But yeah, it's just a great group of people to work with. You have a great mission, and everyone actually cares about their work. And I was actually describing this the other day. We had one of our scientists on there that's one of our senior scientists, and actually like a lead scientist for hurricane research. And just seeing him go out there, this is like his billionth flight, and he's still taking pictures of the plane, still taking pictures of outside, and still has that same exact joy that I still have when I go out to the plane. I'm constantly taking pictures because you have so much pride in the work that you do here.
People can't get enough of it. Every time you guys take videos and take pictures, like it's just such an interesting career that you have that the rest of the world is very intrigued by it. Okay, so let's talk about the video. Tell me what kind of you were going through at that point when the video was taken and what you were doing there in the cockpit.
So when we're going through the storm environment, since there is a lot going on, we try to divvy up the responsibilities of the flight station between the 3 of us. So David Keith on controls, and he's focusing on keeping the aircraft straight and level as much as possible, dealing with those side winds. Chris Wood, who's the co-pilot at that point, is backing him up, making sure he's on airspeed, on track, on altitude, and we're flying the right way. And then my job is to just maintain airspeed at 210 knots. So I'm somewhere in between 200 and 220. That's the range. So if I'm faster than 220, I pull back on the power levers. I'll announce that to David. David would then pull up the aircraft to nose it up to try to slow us down. If we're too slow and I have max power set and we're still not speeding up, then David will nose down the aircraft to help us increase speed. So we're trying to maintain that 210 at all times. It's a lot of work. As you can see in the video, we're constantly just fully going firewall to flight idle nonstop. And you can't hear it in the video, but we're all talking on internal communication systems, or ICS, the entire time.
How many times did you go through that eye wall during that mission?
We did 4 times, 4 passes. The video was the second pass. which was the one where we delayed in the eye wall to figure out what's going on.
Okay, so that sparked some rumors, which I kind of missed out on when this was happening online. You say delayed in the eye wall. Then all of a sudden on the internet, people are saying the hurricane hunters are stuck in the eye of Hurricane Helene. So is that normal to delay like that? Tell me what happened there.
So normally we're in and out of the eye just due to the eye size. Sometimes it's a smaller eye. We don't have the availability of being able to do circles in the eye. Helene had a massive eye. I think it was like 20 plus miles long. So we were able to actually do some circles in there. And it is common for us to circle in the eye itself. And the reason we do that is, one, to give the crew a break, because going through the eye wall or just going through the storm in general, you have condition 5 set, which means everyone's strapped in, everyone can't move from their seats. We're staying in place while we're going through the severe turbulence. So that could be anywhere from 5 minutes to an hour and a half to 2 hours that I've seen it. So we tend to circle up in the eye just to give people that break, go use the restroom, go get some food, snacks. So it's not uncommon for us to actually circle in the eye.
Interesting. What's that like when you're circling in the eye? Are you just like in awe of what you're looking at around you?
Yeah, absolutely. That's when everyone's coming up. Phones are out everywhere. GoPros are going. We're taking videos, pictures. It's something that no matter how nice the photo is, it's never going to give it true justice of how beautiful it is.
You wrote when you posted that video that this was like top 3 of like the intense eye wall penetrations you've done in your career. So I'm curious what the other ones are and what it felt like to actually be in that situation.
My number one, hands down, was Hurricane Ian. Ian was actually in my first season as being a flight engineer for NOAA. So I didn't have anything to really reference it. The only way I was even able to realize that Ian was a strong storm or that turbulence was severe is when I look back at the more senior people and they were very white-faced ghosts, like shaking. And so I was like, oh, okay, so that was a good one, huh? And then
is that the one where Nick Underwood took the video of like beds falling out of the back? Yeah, okay.
Yes, that's the Nick Underwood video one. Yes, that was definitely up there. A few people did not return to fly for NOAA after that. But needless to say, so that was definitely my top. This was right up there with Ian. I would say it's number 2, but just by barely a little bit, because they're so hard to really determine what they're like because they're so far apart from each other. But my other one that would be really severe was Hurricane Lee last year when it was a Cat 5 in the middle of the Atlantic. We were the first ones to go into it, and it was definitely a Cat 5.
Okay, so I'm curious. I know that research has been done about turbulence on the aircraft when it's flying through the hurricane and how really the pilots, anybody in the cockpit is like feeling the worst of the turbulence. Do you think that's true? Do you concur with that research?
Actually, no, I don't concur with it.
Yeah, where do you think the worst spot is? The
worst spot on the plane, hands down, is the back of the plane. So if you're anywhere in the back, you're dealing with some severe turbulence. The middle of the plane is the nicest, and in the front, you get a lot of the bumps too, but by far the back is the worst.
Purely selfish question, as somebody who has severe turbulence fear, I'm curious what it's like, emotionally in the front of the plane, in the cockpit, when you're going through this. Are you guys scared? Is this a scary situation? Is it a dangerous situation?
It's not really a dangerous situation. And the reason why I can say that is because we've trained countless amount of hours outside of the flight station for this exact scenario. So with our training, our crew resource management, our reliance on teamwork, it's really not as dangerous as people think just because we have so much practice doing it.
I can hear it over and over again, but it's still, you have a fear. Okay, so I want to go back to the video. I love the part where you kind of turn around and smile, and the look is kind of like, whoo, like that one's interesting. So were you glad like that was over? Is it like an adrenaline rush? What was the feeling when you kind of came through the eye wall at that point and turned around and had that smile?
So you're going through the eye wall, you're so focused, you're so task saturated with that one thing of just maintaining airspeed that you don't really get a lot of chance to show your emotions or say anything really crazy. There was some things said on ICS though that were good that they did not get recorded. But it was definitely one of those surreal feelings that you're going through. I look back to to check on our nav, Lieutenant Commander Utama, and to like actually see how he's doing. But like that is a genuine look of like, holy crap, like that was good. That was a good bump, or a good series at least, which is abnormal for me because I'm usually very straight face in the flight station for situations like that. Because if I start panicking or I start showing fear, everyone starts freaking out. Right. So as I said, as a flight engineer, I'm there for all the emergencies. So when something goes wrong, if I start panicking, they start panicking. So I'm usually very level-headed and mindful, but that was just a general reaction that I couldn't control. That was just like, dang.
Do you always wear the engineer hat?
I try to. So I got that engineer hat when I was, I actually have it with me right now. But yeah,
you could have worn it for the interview.
I could put it on if you want. I'll put it on.
Yeah. Something tells me this is like your signature look.
It is. There's a few of us, but here's the train conductor hat.
Nice.
But yeah, so I got this hat when I got qualified as a flight engineer in the Navy back in 2013, and I try to wear it every single chance I get. Sometimes I wear a different hat because people ask me to wear it, so I'll wear the hat through the storm and I'll give it to them as a gift. So, but typically this is my go-to standard hat when I'm flying.
Oh yeah, that's interesting. You could wear a different one every storm, and then you could probably sell it on eBay. Like put the stats in there and sign it. Sell it on eBay.
I wish. It's a good side hustle.
Okay, so I want to talk about the plane itself, because these planes are not new. They're quite old. So tell me about kind of the history here of the NOAA Hurricane Hunter aircraft.
So we originally got the planes back in 1975. Took about a year of mods to get them up to hurricane status or ready to fly into hurricanes. So I think they flew their first storm in 76, 77 time frame. So they're pretty old aircraft in general, but they're so well maintained by our maintenance staff that they're like brand new. So it's actually quite comical because you get a lot of people that dealt with P3s in the Navy and overseas, and they'll come check out our facilities and our planes, and they're just blown away at how well maintained these aircraft are kept. Like, there's any grease on it, it's gone. They're spotless at all times, or at least try to be. After a storm, it's a little bit rough right now. If they'll show you the hangar, they're getting torn apart, just getting ready for the next series that could be coming up.
What kind of damage do they sustain in hurricanes?
So a lot of it is from the rain itself, actually. The rain's traveling so fast that it's tearing through some of the metal parts of the prop blades. So they'll have to refile down the prop blades quite often. We try to put tape. It's this thick 3M tape on the leading edges. So all the leading edge surfaces, and that gets destroyed. And the reason why I put that tape there is because if the tape wasn't there, then our leading edges, the metal will be destroyed. So try to mitigate as much damage as possible. But a couple of spinners are getting replaced because of the damages that were sustained. We check everything. This plane is constantly being inspected over and over again by multiple sets of eyes.
Yeah, it's like goes both directions, where it's comforting in the way that they've been doing the same thing for 50 years and they've stood the test of time. But then also, I can imagine as a member of the media, if I walked up to get on the plane and I saw tape, I'd probably be like, what's happening here?
Tape. It looks good. It's like more of a cushion tape.
Okay. You guys name your two Hurricane Hunters, right? What are their names?
So we have 3 planes that have names right now. We have Kermit, Miss Piggy, and Gonzo as our G4. The way it came about was when we first got our original 2 aircraft, we had one that was really good and one that was constantly leaking or dirty, and they kept calling it the Pig, and the Pig eventually escalated to Miss Piggy, and they're like, well, if we have Miss Piggy, we might as well have Kermit. So we have Kermit and Miss Piggy, and then we reached out to Jim Henson, who's the creator of the Muppets. He loved the idea. He actually drew up the original artwork for it. So those are his original designs that are on the planes, and that's how they've been. And then the G4 has a weird radar nose looking feature on the plane. So they're like, that's a weird nose. That's Gonzo. So that's how they all came about with their names.
Oh, funny. I never knew that full story. That's awesome. Cool. Dan, are you going to fly again, or were you deterred by this mission?
Oh, I'll be up in there.
Thank you for all that you do. And thank you to everyone over there at NOAA. Please tell them we appreciate it.
Will do. Thank you for your support.
Next up, I'm talking with Jonathan Shannon. Jonathan no longer works for NOAA. He actually lives overseas now, but he was the public affairs for the NOAA hurricane hunters for many years. He had some interesting stories about the very first people to fly into hurricanes and shared the exciting information about a new fleet of planes coming in the next few years. Jonathan and Shannon, let's talk about hurricane hunters. It's been quite a season so far, especially the past couple of weeks. But I want to hear about the history of the hurricane hunters. People are fascinated with the fact that there are people flying into Category 5 hurricanes. So take me back to the very beginning of how this whole program got started and when we first started flying into hurricanes.
So for the military, it started with a bar bet. It was Lieutenant Colonel Duckworth down in Galveston, Texas. He took a training aircraft up from there, came back, grabbed a meteorologist because it was a trainer, and they went in and started sampling some of the different parts of the storm. Then they started doing it with the Navy Typhoon warning squadrons during World War II, as well as the Air Force weather squadrons too. Today, we have one Air Force Reserve Hurricane Hunter Squadron, the 53rd Weather Reconnaissance Squadron based in Biloxi, Mississippi. They fly C-130Js into the storm and gather some of the operational reconnaissance data for the National Hurricane Center. We at NOAA have been flying this mission before we were NOAA. So we started working with what is now the Atlantic Oceanographic and Meteorological Laboratories Hurricane Research Division. From there, it started as the Office of Aircraft Operations within NOAA, which was part of the NOAA Corps. So this all came together. In 1966, there was a project called Project Storm Fury, where they looked at, hey, can we adjust hurricanes by, seeding them to add dry ice or whatever in them to weaken the eye wall, things like that. Basically, they thought they were successful, but we learned it was just an eye wall replacement cycle. These storms, you can't affect them. They are, as nature intended them, they are the way to distribute heat from the tropics to the poles. So no matter what we do, they're going to happen. The key thing is to keep people out of harm's way and also to build in resilience, right, in coastal communities. So NOAA, since then, we had some other aircraft. I think there was some Air Force Constellations or a couple other aircraft that we were flying up until 1975 when we got our first delivery of NOAA 4-2, which is now known as Kermit. And then in 1976, we got delivery of NOAA 4-3, now known as Miss Piggy as well. So we've been flying those aircraft into storms for NOAA 4-2 since 1976 and NOAA 4-3 Miss Piggy since 1977. So we've got about 50 years of history doing this. And each time we do it, we're working to incrementally improve. So we're adding new sensors, we're updating new things. Recently, in the past couple of years, we've started launching aircraft from an aircraft into a hurricane with uncrewed aircraft systems. So we're trying to increase our knowledge and the persistence of the sensor down in that boundary layer area, down where the moisture meets the wind, as it were, the rubber meets the road, where the hurricane gets its fuel from that very hot water, and how does that ocean atmospheric interaction go?
So let's go back to the mid 70s when these aircraft come in. I'm curious about, we often talk about how bringing in satellite imagery completely changed how we forecast hurricanes and the fact that we actually know that they're coming now. And so I'm curious, did the bringing in the hurricane hunters at that point, did that also really change our ability to forecast hurricanes? Was that a big bump?
Satellites and hurricane hunters are sort of working together now, and they're working together even better as we've improved. But in the beginning, it was, hey, here's a target based on a Earth GOES, or a global orbiting Earth environmental sensing satellite, geostationary orbiting environmental satellite, looking down and saying, okay, we see something going. We took the sensors or the weather station to the weather and helped get that initial data. And with the advent of satellites, we're also able to broadcast that data from our aircraft directly to, the National Hurricane Center, the National Weather Service for their model. So satellites and aircraft work together. So the satellite helps you get that early warning forecast. We go to where the satellite makes it look interesting, or the models may have gaps in the data and the forecasters really want extra information. So we can do that, with our high altitude aircraft, the Gulfstream 4, that senses all the way around that interesting area and helps resolve those areas of model uncertainty. Or we can do it with our P3 Orion that flies at 8 to 10,000 feet into the storm to get that real granular data over 4 to 6 hours of us flying through the storm.
When did the dropsondes start?
That's a great question. I think we started working with dropsondes as early as the 70s, but we've been modifying them since. So with the dropsondes, we used to have, they were very larger, clunkier. Previously, we had them just recently down to the size of a large Pringles can, but now we have them basically, it's a paper towel roll. So we've now moved to what we call the mini sonde, which is magically going to appear in camera here. So it's about this size, and inside of it, inside this little sensor compartment, it gets temperature, pressure, and humidity, and then it also gets GPS-derived wind speed and direction. So on our P3s currently, these are launched by hand, and the G4 as well. They're launched by hand by people at the Airborne Vertical Atmospheric Profiling Station, or AVAP station, and they can track up to 4 at a time. So what we're looking for in our new aircraft, the new G550 that we expect, next spring in 2025, and the C-130s in 2030, is we're going to have more of an automated system that could spit out these smaller dropsondes quicker, so we can get more granularity in that regard as well, basically by spitting out all these weather balloons in reverse so that they can sample what's going on in the atmosphere.
Are you replacing the P3s, or are we just adding?
So the P3s, they've been doing amazing service for us these past years, almost 50 years. We re-winged the P3s in 2014 and 2016 for NOAA 4.2, and then 2016 to 2018 for NOAA 4.3. We got them new engines, new upgraded engines, new wings. But the P3, nobody's making them anymore, and not many people are flying them anymore, right? So the cost-benefit analysis of these, maintaining these amazing platforms is that they are becoming rarer and rarer. They're already, two unique one-of-a-kind aircraft, or two-of-a-kind aircraft, based on all the instruments they have on them that were built specifically for NOAA. But now, it's sort of like a vintage car, right? It gets really expensive when you need to do that oil change or, tire change or get a new engine. So that's why we're moving to the C-130s. It made more sense. And we're working using our 50 years of knowledge, working with the P3s, continuing to update the instrumentation to build that in to the new C-130s we're getting, as well as working with academic research institutions, other parts of NOAA, to make sure that they have the room or the facilities to expand upon the research we've already done, right? So it's going to be very exciting once we get these C-130Js in to see the amount and different types of data they're able to collect, not just in hurricanes, but to support all the other missions we do with these aircraft.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And I'm curious too about the people on board, and you're talking about automated systems. So what's the crew going to look like? Is that going to change at all?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, we are working to continue to have researchers, crew members on board. I mean, while we're maybe working to automate the dropsondes, so it's not as much by hand, there's still, uncrewed aircraft systems that we're starting to launch from the C-130 or from the P3s, and we'll be launching from the C-130Js. So we are expanding our instrumentation set. Maybe it's the same amount of crew that's in there just because they're running a lot more systems, but there are ways to do it, I guess, easier, if that makes sense. or we can support more researchers on the ground studying the inputs we're getting because we have a higher bandwidth out of this newer aircraft. So that staffing model, we're going to figure it out starting in 2030, but we are still going to need crewed aircraft going into hurricanes in the future.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and like you said, this is not happening next season. This is down the road. So projected 2030, how's that timeline looking? Do you think it'll get adjusted at all? What are the dependent factors here? 2030
is when we need them. That's what we're working towards. We got this initial funding with the contract to design, build, and instrument 2. We have the options on the contract to try and get 2 more for total. We have authorization based on the need that we have for up to 6, but it's just getting the funding in, getting the place in line with Lockheed to build the equipment, and also continuing to get it ready, as it were. So we're continuing to work on the instrumentation that will go on the aircraft. We're doing a lot with the new G550s that are coming on board. So it's a really exciting time to be either an aerospace engineer, an electrical engineer, or a meteorologist working with NOAA, just based on
hurricane hunters.
what's coming down the pipe
fly
with these new
these
aircraft.
or meteorologists on board, and they all kind of give me the same thing. And I want to hear from you, like a normal person. Is this scary to fly on a hurricane hunter flight? Is it as terrifying as what it sounds we're talking about a situation where a Category 5 hurricane is approaching. Commercial flights are being grounded everywhere. And then the hurricane hunters are taking off and flying into the worst part of this storm. So what is this experience like? And is it safe?
Yeah, so let me first start out with our folks, our crews. Their mission is to make the flight as boring as possible. Right? Now, the storm will throw different things at them. They say every storm is different, but their goal is, you can't fight a hurricane, so you just sort of have to go in there, and I guess, flying is falling gracefully, right? So they fly through the hurricane or fall gracefully, to make sure we're still able to collect the data. I have been on one storm flight. It was in 2019 for Tropical Storm Barry. And, I was a little nervous when I was going. And then I looked on the side of our aircraft. We have all the different hurricanes that the aircraft has flown through on the side. And I looked and I saw that this aircraft has been flying since before I was born into actual hurricanes. And I was just going into a tropical storm. So I felt a little better then. But you're right. It is still, I guess, unnerving as you look and you see, the shaking, the water. It's like a roller coaster through a car wash, right? But on board the aircraft, all the people are working in sync professionally. The maintainers have already worked super hard down here on the ground to make sure all the systems are functioning. Our pilots, have a lot of on-the-job training of doing this to become hurricane aircraft commanders, and our meteorologists are the best, looking at what's ahead of them and making the calls to get both the science and the aircraft safely through the hurricane. So, I have a lot of pride in our team, from a guy who flies a desk, that is very straight and level. But they fly through the storm. I get to talk up a storm. We have a very good safety record, and we do that intentionally. Everything we do as we plan out the mission is intentional, to, again, make it as boring as possible as you can be in flying into a hurricane.
Okay, so when the planes come back and the crew is getting off and the media is getting off, what are some things that you've seen as far as interesting experiences of people coming back after these missions?
Yeah, our folks, when they come back, they're tired. It's 8 to 10 hours of flying, with 4 to 6 of it being somewhat bumpy. Folks are giving me some of the video or, high fives as we're coming back. They're telling me a little bit about the mission so I can talk about it on our social media. And basically the reason I do that is to get something that's eye-catching, so people will actually go to the National Hurricane Center or their NWS forecast office to figure out what they need to do as the hurricane gets closer to them. So we can get a lot of views on our videos bumping along, but it's always meant to drive people to where that forecast and advisory is so they can stay safe, right? That's the real reason we fly the mission. So we have some media folks who say, hey, it was a once in a lifetime opportunity. Some of them don't try and fly again. Some are just satisfied with the one. It is sort of a bucket list item for a lot of people. So we have to manage, seats and availability in that regard. But yeah, the team is just amazing to work with. And everybody who does come off the team that's a visitor is just impressed with the professionalism, the way we take care of the aircraft and all through the flight.
Any thoughts on what the new aircraft are going to be named, or is that something that's going to come in time? Are we going with the same theme?
I am sort of sworn to secrecy on that. Yeah, I can't say
a press release in the future, I guess.
Yeah, a press release in the future. We are still going to be honoring the Muppet heritage, so I can at least say that we will continue honoring the Muppet heritage that we've had at the NOAA Hurricane Hunters for a while, but that's about as far as I can go.
Awesome. Jonathan, is there anything else you want to add about the NOAA Hurricane Hunters or the new aircraft?
There's the NOAA Hurricane Hunters, and then there's all our different light aircraft missions that are continually flying year-round as well. One of those important ones, especially during a storm event, is our emergency response imagery and aircraft. So we've been flying with our King Air these past 3-4 days around the Florida areas that have been impacted, and we may get tasked by FEMA to go up to the North Carolina areas, but with high-resolution imagery, helping people understand, what has happened to the area, and it also allows people to be able to look and check in on their houses, for example, because it's geo-referenced to see if they still have a roof or what has gone on. And so that damage response imagery is very important as well. The one thing I would also leave you with is there's no off-season for science. So these aircraft, all the lessons we've learned in both hurricanes, we're using in winter storms, we're using in atmospheric rivers on the West Coast. We're doing what we call ocean winds projects, where we're helping to calibrate and validate the satellites that are looking at the wind speed over the ocean and the significant wave heights in extreme wind events like hurricanes and polar lows. But then that's distributed around the world for the mariners that are out there at sea. As we have maybe, Hurricane Kirk out there in the middle of the ocean, it still matters, where those waves are going and as people are transiting for the maritime commerce.
The data collection for like atmospheric rivers and winter storms, is that similar? Are you doing drones? Are you doing drop-sons in those as well?
Right now for atmospheric rivers and the winter storms, it's mainly drop-sons, and it's also our tail Doppler radars. And then what we have on the P3 is called a SMRF, or a stepped frequency microwave radiometer, that is looking down at surface-derived wind speeds, as well as the same instruments that are on a satellite. So we've got satellite radar altimeters in the belly of our P3s that are also running. And so they're able to time that with satellite passes and get sort of that same data, calibrate and validate it, as well as us just flying around gathering that data so they can understand how it's affected by significant rain or other things like that the satellite has to look through.
Well, Jonathan, thank you so much for your time. This was very enlightening. I always learn something new. As many interviews as I've done with the Hurricane Hunters, there's always something new every single time.
Well, thank you very much for having me, Emily. I appreciate it.
Off the Radar is a production of the National Weather Desk. Make sure you're following the show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to podcasts. New episodes published every Tuesday. You can also now listen to the show on YouTube. Just search the National Weather Desk and find it under the podcast tab. If you like today's show, please share it with a friend and make sure you check out our other episodes about hurricane hunting. Thank you to Daniel Tyson and Jonathan Shannon at NOAA for being on the show today. Also, thank you to my associate producer, Brian Petras, for all of his help on this week's episode. For the National Weather Desk, I'm meteorologist Emily Gracie. Make it a great day.